Tonight's shiur is not a halakhic shiur. Tonight's shiur is a discussion of hashkafa because of the period that we're in, the Bein HaMitzarim, and the national experience that we as the Jewish people are supposed to be undergoing during this period of time. An experience of Galus, which is supposed to lead us to a yearning for Geula. An experience of exile, which is supposed to lead us to a yearning for redemption. And there's a relatively new sefer by Rabbi who's one of the Rosh Yeshiva at Malei Adumim. It's called Bein HaKuzari LaHarambam, or Bein Rabbi Yehuda Halevi LaHarambam. And he goes through various different sugyas, talking about who these two giants were, and sometimes the dichotomy that is formed in Jewish thought for every succeeding generation based upon their unique approaches. And so he's compiled some of the writings of these two greats. We're going to see that there's a lot of areas of intersection when it comes to discussions of Galus and Geula, but different emphases and different foci as far as where they're going, as far as how we're supposed to experience Galus, what the ramifications and repercussions of Galus, and how a Jew is supposed to bring about the Geula. And one of the things that we'll discover is that for Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, there is a very personal effort that every Jew has to make to bring about Geula. And for the Rambam, there is almost a fatalistic kind of national messianic redemption that is supposed to happen. And it's unclear whether the Rambam and Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, if you would get them in the same room to discuss the issue of how the Geula is supposed to take place, whether they would indeed agree with each other, because they seem to be speaking different languages. And it's worthwhile trying to think about areas of intersection and also areas of disagreement. And we're just going to go through some of the makaros tonight to be able to see how the two of them approach the attitude of what it means to be in Galus and what it means to experience redemption on a national level. Our lack of it, so we're just going through taking select portions. Actually, the Kuzari, as many of you know, is broken down into 5 different sections. So we're going to discuss actually all 5 sections tonight of the Kuzari. We'll just take little snippets from each one of the 5 sections of the Kuzari. Number 1, our Rabbi Yehuda Halevi on Galus, our lack of appreciation of the benefits of Galus. Here, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, in the end of the first ma'amar, at the end of the first essay, where he really tries to lay down the fundamentals of Judaism, starts to talk about the idea of what it means to be a downtrodden and persecuted people. Because after all, Sefer HaKuzari's subtitle is In Defense of the Despised Faith, and really in defense of the despised nation, or the despised people. And what Rabbi Yehuda Halevi points out is, don't think that just because the Jewish people are small in number and are universally despised by the other nations of the world means that we're wrong. Because there is something to be glorified. And we find that other nations actually glorify the idea of persecution. Both Christianity, in its struggle to emerge against the Romans, talks about the early struggles. Islam talks about the early struggles to gain legitimacy in the Middle East. And both religions have, in their early stages of their history, take pride in the fact that they were a persecuted class. And that's been the story of the Jewish people. So, Amar HaKuzari, Kain hu ilu haita kiniaschem beratzon. He says to the rabbi, he says, I would understand if your current state of persecution and current state of impoverishment was something that you openly welcomed. Aval hi behechreich b'chasher timtza yedchem taharogu. But it's clearly something that you don't like. You don't like being cloistered in the shtetl. You don't like being persecuted. And if you had the opportunity, you would kill your oppressors. So therefore, it doesn't seem like you're taking great pride in your persecuted state. What Jew wants to remain in the shtetl, in the concentration camp, in the pogrom? So Amar HaChavar, Matzasa Makom Cherpasi Melech Kozar. So the rabbi, who is the disputant to the Khazar king, says back to him, you have discovered my shame, Khazar king. Kenu, you're right. Ela haya Rubeinu, ilu haya Rubeinu mikabel hadalus k'nia lelokim va'avur toraso, lo haya manichenu ha'inyan ha'elokim kol zman ha'aroch hazeh. If we would have accepted our Galus state, our downtrodden state, with the proper spirit and with the proper humility and with the proper acceptance and acknowledgement that God is orchestrating all of this without rejecting and without resenting, then we wouldn't be in Galus for this long. Aval hama'at mimenu al hadas hazos. Only a small minority of Jews in Galus today truly recognize and appreciate the benefits of being in Galus. V'yesh sachar larov mipnei shehu nosei ol hagalus bein hechrech v'ratzon. He says, but despite that fact that most people don't appreciate the benefits of being in Galus, all Jews certainly still are worthy of praise for and worthy of reward for the following. Ki ilu hayarotze haya chaver lenoges oso b'milah sheyomar b'li torach. He says, because any Jew, if he wanted to, could immediately alleviate the stress and persecution of being a Jew in the diaspora. How so? Just saying one word. Converting. Just say, I wish to be baptized. Or just say, I accept Muhammad as the final prophet of the final prophet of all prophets. And this is not lost. This fact is not lost on the true judge and the righteous judge, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizes this. The very fact, the person may not be a savory individual, he may not be a fruma yid, but the very fact that he has the opportunity to abdicate his faith and his peoplehood and insists on remaining Jewish and accepting the persecution that comes together with that is in itself enough of a reason to make one worthy of redemption. But granted, if we were to endure the Galus and the persecution in the proper fashion, with dignity and with simcha and with acceptance, hayinu l'pe'er hador sha'anu mitzapim im ha'mashiach v'hayinu mekarvim eita Yeshua ha'atida sha'anu miyachalim ota. We would become the pe'er hador, the beauty or the glory of our generation that we are hoping for. We would hasten the coming of the Mashiach, and we would hasten the time of redemption that we are all so much hoping for. So that is the modus operandi of the Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. He doesn't sugarcoat Judaism or the Jewish people. He presents Jewish theology, but at the same time acknowledges the dissonance that exists between what Judaism preaches and what Jews actually practice. He is one of the most candid Rishonim that you'll ever find, because he does realize that we as Klal Yisrael fall short of the expectations that Hashem places upon us. We are in the Galus, and there are certain ways that we're supposed to comport ourselves when we're in the Galus, and we don't fully follow through, and that's why we're in Galus for so long. Okay. Let's talk about the state of the Jews in Galus. This is from Maimer Beis, paragraph 29. Amar HaKuzari, Im kein atem hayom guf v'lo rosh v'lo lev. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi states that in the absence of the temple, when we no longer have Kohanim leading us, and we no longer have an Aron, those things represent the head and the heart of the Jewish people. And now that we don't have Kohanim who are the head of the Jewish people, and we don't have the Aron Kodesh, which is the heart of the Jewish people upon which the divine presence rests, we are, says the Kuzari, the Khazar king, it would seem therefore nowadays that you don't have those things anymore. You are like a body without a head and without a heart. So Amar HaChaver Kenhu Ka'asher Amarta. You're absolutely right. Ve'od v'lo guf. And not only that, but we're not even a body. We're not even a real body. Why? Because Avol Atzamos Mifuzaros Kamo Ha'atzamot HaYeveshot Asher Ra'a Yechezkel. We are like the dry bones that Ezekiel sees in his vision. Ve'im kol zeh melech kozar. But even with all of that, Khazar king, Ilu Ha'atzamot Asher Nishar Bahem Teva Mitivei HaChayim. He says, or elu ha'atzamot. He says, these are still bones that at one time had life in them. Uchavar hayu kalim l'rosh l'leiv v'ruach v'nefesh v'seicha. Kelim, and these things used to be the repositories for a head and a heart and a spirit and a soul and an intellect. Tovim migufot mitzuyarot me'evin v'sid b'rosh ve'einayim ve'oznayim v'chol ha'ivarim. And that's far better than being a lifeless statue that only resembles a human being, but never had a soul, never had a head, never had a heart. V'lo chala b'hem me'olam ruach chaya v'yefshe sheyachol b'hem. Achem atzurot domot l'tzurot adam ve'einam adam. And we're far better off, even with being decapitated and having no heart and having desiccated bones. We're still far better off than the other nations of the world who never had life in them to begin with. So what Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is expressing here is an idea that he presents in a few other places, that the Jewish people in Galus are on life support. We are experiencing a life that is not really a life because we have no soul left in us. But it's better to be this way than with the hopes of resuscitation than to have never been alive at all. And that's what our superiority over the other nations is. But you see his characterization of what we are like in the Galus. And just a couple paragraphs further, he writes in Lamed Beis, he says, Va'anachnu kishiyimotzei pega et libeno asher hu beit mikdashenu avadnu. That when the injury was placed upon our heart, in other words, when our heart was injured, which means our Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, avadnu, then we lost. V'chasher yirapei nirapei anachnu. But when it will be healed, when the temple will be rebuilt, then we will be healed. Bein sheni herav o ma'at v'al eze inyan sheyiyeh. And you notice that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi does not go into in the Kuzari how the redemption is going to take place. He just says whether we're going to be a lot of Jews at the time of redemption, whether there's just going to be a small population of Jews at the time, however it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Ki manhigenu malkenu v'hamoshel banu v'hamachazik otanu b'inyan hazeh shanachnu bo me'hapizur v'hagalut kel chai. He says, and the reason is because God is the living God, and He's the one who sustains us even when we're in this Galus. So the fact is that we're in Galus, and we're dry bones, but at the same time, we have HaKadosh Baruch Hu with us, no matter where we go. And therefore, that's our saving grace. So Lamed Dalet, he just recaps, and he says, Ve'en anachnu b'malas hameis. We are therefore not at the level of a corpse. Ach anachnu b'malat hacholeh hanishchaf sheyityashu merefuato kol harofeim. That we are like a desperately ill patient, where the doctors have given up all hope of finding a cure. And the patient is in such a desperate state that both he and his family are waiting for a miracle cure. They know that under normal circumstances this patient is going to die, and they're just waiting for a miracle. As God says to Yecheskel when he has this vision of the dry bones, He says, do you think it's even possible for there to be a resuscitation of these bones? God was asking a rhetorical question. He was telling him it's absolutely, under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to resuscitate dry bones. And yet that's precisely what will happen with the Jewish people. That if you take a look in Isaiah 53, Isaiah 52 and 53, known as the passage of the suffering servant, which Christians have used as an Old Testament proof to the crucifixion of Yashka, we use as a depiction of the Jewish people in Galus. That we as the Jewish people have suffered for the sins of mankind, and we have been crucified. And we look like, as the prophet, as Isaiah discusses in chapter 52, we look like a person who is so horribly misfigured that the rest of the world doesn't even want to look upon him. Rotzelomar shuhu mishinui hanireh v'roa mar'ehu kemo ha'devarim ha'metunafim she'esh la'adam istanisut lahabit aleihim u'mastir panav mehem. He says we'll be so disfigured and so ugly to look at in our diseased state that a person will sometimes have to turn away his face. When you see something that's really unsightly. You can't look at it. You want to turn away. That's what the Jewish people look like in Galus. Nivzeh v'chadal ishim ishmach avot v'yadu acholi. A person who is extremely sickly and diseased, and you just can't endure to be in the same room with him anymore. That's what our state is today. That's what the Jewish people are like. But yet at the same time, even though the doctors have given up, even though the world has given up on the Jewish people, and the world says that the Jewish people are lost, nevertheless, there will come a time when we will be miraculously resuscitated. So that's the state of Klal Yisrael in Galus. It's not a pretty picture. But at the same time, the saving grace is it's better to be dry bones that once had a soul and have a hope of being resuscitated than not having ever been alive at all. We now go on to the proper attitude of Galus. We saw in Maimer Aleph the incorrect attitude of Galus, and why the incorrect attitude of Galus keeps us in Galus longer. Because if we don't appreciate and we aren't sensitive to the benefits of going through their various iterations of persecution, then we are condemned to repeat those iterations. So therefore, in Maimer Gimel, he has to explain to us what the proper attitude is when a person experiences on a national level. So first he talks about what a saintly person is, what a chassid is, and then he talks about how a chassid, when he confronts personal suffering in life, accepts it, realizes that it's from Hashem, and actually feels that this is going to help to raise his character and elevate him in some way spiritually. And then he goes into a discussion of how a chassid, a pious person, approaches national suffering of the persecuted Jew. V'chein ya'aseh b'tzarot ha'kololot. And that's what the chassid does when he considers national travails. Kisheya'aviru bilbulei hamachshev al libo orech hagalut upizur ha'umah. When he considers to himself certain ideas which are extremely confusing, certain ideas that when you think about them sort of detract you from your divine service, and that is the long time we've been in Galus. It's been over 2,000 years. And are we really ever going to get out of this? Is there really going to be a Mashiach? And you think about how scattered the Jewish people are. Is there any possible way we're ever going to get back together? And how the Jewish people have experienced such a downtrodden state. So first he'll console himself the same way that he does with personal suffering. And then he'll consider the fact that this is an atoning experience for himself personally. He'll think about the ultimate reward that awaits all Jews in the world to come. Of course, this is all of the reassurances that a person gives himself when he confronts suffering. And the opportunity that he has as a Jew, despite his physical suffering, to be able to attach himself to Hashem and to Hashem's divinity in this world. And if further there is still going to be some condemnation in his mind about how he can reconcile this miserable Galus that the Jewish people are experiencing, because he considers the pasuk in Yecheskel about how is it ever possible that we're ever going to be resuscitated, as we've been totally rejected and forgotten, that our bones are completely dry, we've lost all hope, it's all already, the die has already been cast. Then all he should think about is the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and he should think about the Dayenu song. Because he should consider to himself how inconceivable it was for the Jewish people of Egypt to be able to ascend in such a relatively small amount of time to the highest of heights after they had been the most downtrodden of all people. And he should say to himself, even if there's one Jew left in the world it is still possible to completely rebuild the entire Jewish nation. Chomosha Amar, al tiri'i tola'as Yaakov. As it says in Yeshaya, do not fear a worm of Jacob. Kimahu hanishar min ha'adam kishashav tola'as bekibro. And you know why we're called the worm of Jacob? Because all that's left of you when you're dead and buried are the worms crawling in and out of your rotting corpse. So even if we're just a worm, and that's all that's left of us, there's still hope. So Amar HaKuzari, the Kuzari hears his words and he responds. By the way, do you see how poetic Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is in his writings? Have you ever heard of any other Rishon who writes so poetically, who waxes so poetically when he's trying to teach us Jewish theology? We can't even do him justice in our attempts of translation. He says, Kamo zeh yichyeh begolus chayim arevim, v'ya'areh perita raso ba'olam hazeh v'olam haba. He says, if a person has that kind of attitude, and he really does have that very pious attitude towards Galus, then he'll have a good life. He'll have a life of blessing and a life of happiness, both in this world and in the next. But if a person suffers through Galus and doesn't appreciate what the benefits of Galus are, then he's really going to lose both his world in this life and the life of the world to come. Okay, we'll do one more passage from the Kuzari before we get into the Rambam, and that is the saving grace of the Jews in Galus and the benefit to the world. What are we doing here, and how are we helping the world by being in Galus? We know that we're helping ourselves by being in Galus because the Galus is an expiating experience for the Jewish people, and it helps us to be purified and atoned and be ready for the ultimate experience of the Messianic age and of Olam Haba. But there's another aspect that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi provides for us. And in order to be able to fully appreciate what we're going to read from the fourth Maimar, just let me give you a little bit of background information. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi had spoken about in the second Maimar the whole benefit of Eretz Yisrael. What is the benefit of living in Eretz Yisrael for a Jew? And he gives a very interesting mashal. He says, let's say you have a vine that has been cultivated from the finest pedigree of grapevines, and it's ready to be planted, and it comes from, let's say, I don't know, some region in France where the most expensive grapes grow to be able to make the most expensive wine. You can't just plant it anywhere. You have to find the richest soil with the richest nutrients, and you have to cultivate the plant properly. And Eretz Yisrael is the soil for the very, very precious vine of the Jewish people. If you plant the Jewish people anywhere outside of Eretz Yisrael, then we'll grow, but we won't grow to be the delicious, expensive, valuable grapes that we're destined to be. You plant us anywhere else in the world, and we've become grapes just like any other grape. But when you plant us in Eretz Yisrael, we become Nevi'im. And when you cultivate us by having the Inyan HaEloki, the divine element, the Shekhinah, dwelling within the Jewish people, so then you have all of the ingredients necessary to be able to cultivate and produce the most expensive grape known to man, and that's the Jewish people. So that's the mashal that he gives back in the second Ma'amar. And now he's going to continue this and discuss, continuing the analogy of that there, even though when you plant the expensive vine out in Poughkeepsie, it doesn't really do anything, nevertheless, there is something going on, something very subtle, something transformative to the Galus itself. So let's take a look what he says. Amar Hechaver, Hadinimcha, sheticharfenu bazem mipnei shenachnu sovim hagalut mibeli tolada. He says, you are justified, as he has acknowledged before, that the Jewish people really don't approach Galus with the proper attitude. And we don't take the proper approach and with proper appreciation, like we've said before. Aval chashafti b'chashuvim imenu, shehem hayu yicholim litchot haboz va'avdut me'al nafshotam b'milah sheyamro b'li torach. However, consider the fact, like he said before, that every Jew always has the opportunity to reject his Judaism and convert by just saying one word, and that in itself is the saving grace for Jews. V'yashuv b'nei chorim v'tarum yadam al ma'avideim, and then they can become free men. Ve'enam osim zeh ela ba'avur shmirat toratam. He says the Jewish people don't do this because they want to observe their Torah. Halo dai b'kurva hazot lahafki lechaper avanot rabot. That in itself is enough to atone for multiple sins. This is just a recap of what he had said in the second line. Now let's go on. V'ilu haya masha atam mevakesh mimeni lo hayinu mitakfim begalut hazeh ima sheyesh la'elokim banu sod v'chochma. He says, but I'll tell you something more. There is an additional aspect to this Galus that involves a special divine secret. Not only is there benefit to the Jewish people, but there's a benefit that is far more mysterious and deep. Kehachochma begargir hazera asher yipol ba'aretz. It's like the seed that a person drops into the soil. V'hu mishtaneh u'mitchalef b'nir'eh el haaretz ve'el hamayim ve'el hazevel. At first glance, when you plant a seed, what happens to the seed? The seed corrodes, it breaks down, it disintegrates, and it breaks down into baser elements, into soil, and into water, and into fertilizer. V'lo yishayer lo shum roshem muchash kefi ma sheyidumeh lemavit elav. And there doesn't seem to be any surviving characteristic within the seed that you planted. And of course, what is he saying? He says when you take a Jew and put him in Canada or the U.S., we look like a Yankee, we look like a Canadian. We don't look like a Jew anymore. In other words, it doesn't seem to be any discernible difference between us and the rest of the world. He says, but what in reality is taking place is that it is not the seed that is being transformed, but it is rather the seed that is transforming the soil and all of its surroundings. Because what ultimately does a seed do? A seed draws nourishment and nutrition from the chemicals and the nutrients that are in the soil, and it absorbs it in order to be able to grow into a very robust plant. So the seed really transforms its surroundings into that which resembles itself. And it turns everything into the husk and the leaves of the plant. To the point where the function of the Jewish people in Galus is what? Is to be able to transform the rest of the world. Not that we are supposed to be affected by the world, but that we are supposed to transform the world and make the world a part of us. And so therefore we are supposed to create the opportunity for God's divinity to rest upon the rest of the world, even in Galus. B'tzurat hazera harishon, and that the world assumes the form of the original seed, which is the Jewish people. And that's why the tree that eventually grows from the seed is to be able to produce other seeds that are exactly of the same appearance and quality of the original seed. And it's the same thing. God gave us the Torah, and the entire world is slowly being transformed into the ideology of the Torah. Now, how does that happen? Does this sound familiar at all? Did we learn something from the Rambam that echoes this similar sentiment? As we saw in Hilchos Malachim, and as hopefully we'll see if we have time tonight, the Rambam says almost exactly the same thing. That the purpose of Christianity and Islam, which are outgrowths of the Torah, which are outgrowths of Judaism, are for the purpose of being able to transform the world into a monotheism and into a knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that could not have happened without the influence of the Jewish people. We were planted in Galus specifically in order to engender that metamorphosis of the rest of the world. Even though it would seem that the opposite is taking place. So these other nations, which have embraced monotheism in their respective faiths, are really the precursor to the anticipated Messiah. asher hu hapri, who is the ultimate fruit of the tree. V'yashuvu kulam piryo ka'asher yodulo v'yashuv ha'etz echad. And everyone will eventually become part of the tree and become part of the fruit of the tree. V'az yifaru v'yokiru hashorash asher hayu mevazim oto. And then when Mashiach comes, the rest of the world will realize that they have been cultivated by the tree that they originally despised, will come to laud it and pay homage to it. As I have explained, which is what the whole passage of Isaiah 52 and 53 is all about. So here you have Rabbi Yehuda Halevi presenting to us an additional benefit to the Jew living in Galus. It's not only for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, but we are supposed to be transforming. This is the Tikkun Olam aspect of what it means to be in Galus. Our function here is to be able to get the soil of Galus to be able to become part of our tree. And to whatever extent Rabbi Yehuda Halevi exercised this in his own life, we don't know. But at least you understand that he did believe in the concept of Tikkun Olam. Yeah?
If you can summarize it, what is the definition of Galus according to Rabbi Yehuda Halevi? I'm sorry that they are not Israelis anymore, they are not in Israel, they are not vBeth.
Well, for Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, there's one experience of Galut. He's not living through different periods in history. For him, it's no Beit HaMikdash, no Amar Alahi, no Inyan HaEloki, which is the divinity that rests, the Shekhinah that rests when we have a Beit HaMikdash, no Nevuah, being displaced from the soil of Eretz Yisrael, not having an Aron, not having true leaders who have Nevuah. All of these things are part of what it means to live in Galut. And also the idea of feeling distant from Hashem and being a persecuted class. All of these, they will all go together.
So in the time of the Hashmonaim, we were in Galut. We didn't have Aron, we didn't have Nevuah.
There were different, so for him, yeah, there would be different levels of Galut. But he's speaking about his own Galut, the Galut of his time. But you're right, granted, I grant you that. Which is why Christianity can coalesce and form at a time which, is almost coinciding with Bayit Sheni. It can come about just because we have a Beit HaMikdash, but if we have no Aron, we have no Shekhinah, we have no Nevuah, that's also Galut. It's also Galut. Right? In other words, in the analogy of the tree, of the zera that you plant in the ground, you need two things. You need the right soil, and you need the cultivation of the soil. You need to work the soil. So Eretz Yisrael will always be the correct soil. But right now, for Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, we've planted the seeds, but we haven't added the proper fertilizer. We haven't watered the plant properly. So it's dormant in the right soil, waiting for the proper cultivation. And there's one more ingredient for Rabbi Yehuda Halevi which brings the Geula. And that is the yearning for Eretz Yisrael. The yearning for redemption in a period of time when we'll be back in a place where the Jewish people will be reunited together and cleaving unto Hashem with the Shekhinah among us. And that's the theme that you find in Rabbi Yehuda Halevi in other places. And he says that, and we're not going to have time to go through all of this text tonight, but let me just tell you on page 4 at the very top what he says in Maimer Hay. He says, "Uveha'aras b'nei Adam v'his orurusam el ahavas hamakom hu hakadosh yinachetz ha'inyan ha'miyuchal." He says that when a person is passionate or inspired to a love of Eretz Yisrael, then he will be able to hasten the anticipated moment. Sechar gadol u'gemul rav, that time of great reward and great recompense. K'moshe ne'amar, Ata sakum tirachem tzion, ki es lechenena ki v'moed. That we say this in Musaf, right? You, Hashem, will rise up. You will have compassion on Zion, because the time has come to visit it, because the allotted time has arrived. Now, we only say that part of the pasuk, but what's the second part of the pasuk? Ki ratzu avodecha es avoneha ve'es afara yichonenu. Why is the allotted time arrived? Because your servants have desired the very stones of Eretz Yisrael, and its earth they supplicate for. Rotze lomar, ki Yerushalayim omnam tibaneh, kisheyichsefu b'nei Yisrael la tachlit hakosef ad sheyichonenu avoneha va'afara. that Jerusalem will be built when the Jewish people desire it enough. And you know, we've spoken enough times, even although I've only been here for a few months, you know that if you come to any of my lectures on the Kuzari, you know that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi's famous line of Hovashtani Melech Kozar, you've shamed me, Kozar King. When you say that all of our prayers where we say that Sechazena Einenu B'shu V'Chalet Zion B'Rachamim, may our eyes witness your return to Zion with mercy, and we say it as the warbling of the parrot, is the way Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says, because if we were truly sincere, and we truly felt it, then we would be hastening our ability to actually see God restoring His divinity to Zion. So for Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, if we're excited and we're passionate about coming back to Eretz Yisrael and experiencing Geula, that is what will hasten the Geula. For the Rambam, he doesn't express it in that terminology. I don't know that he necessarily has to disagree with Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, but he uses a completely different vocabulary in order to express what will bring the Geula. And it's very important for us to really parse this very carefully, because it's very easy for one to look at the writings of the Rambam and to conclude that the Rambam is an anti-messianist in the sense that, there are two attitudes to how to bring Mashiach. One attitude is that you've got to be proactive and you've got to do your share to bring Mashiach. And as long as we are working towards that goal, we will bring Mashiach. And the other attitude is that the time will come when Mashiach will come. Mashiach Tzaitin, and we just have to be patient. We have to wait it out. And the question is, which one is the more correct attitude? Are we supposed to just do what we're supposed to do the mitzvahs and serve Hashem and not worry so much about Mashiach, He'll come when He comes? Or are we supposed to be proactive in making an effort to bring Mashiach? So you can very, very clearly see from Rabbi Yehuda Halevi and the other passages that we won't be able to go into tonight, that his attitude is we must be extremely proactive in doing our share to bring Mashiach. And that has to be part of our aspirations, and it has to be part of our avoda as a Jew. That every single day we have to do something. It's not just enough to put on tefillin and to daven and so forth. There's an additional avoda that we as Jews have, which is, what have I done today to bring Mashiach one step closer to coming? The Rambam doesn't speak in that terminology. The Rambam simply says in Hilchos Tshuva, Perek Zayin Halacha Hey, he says, Kol Hanavim Kulan Tzivu Ala Tshuva, Ve'ein Yisrael Nigolim Melo B'Tshuva, V'chvar Yivticha Torah Shesof Yisrael Lastos Tshuva B'Sof Galusan, V'miyad Ein Nigolim. That there's a mitzvah of Tshuva. All of the Nevi'im tell us we have to do Tshuva, and that the final stage of our Galus will be when we all do Tshuva, and then we'll immediately be redeemed. Shenemar v'hayachi yavo alecha kol hadvarim, v'shavtar Hashem Elokecha v'shav Hashem Elokecha v'gomer. Like it says in Parshas Nitzavim, that when you do Tshuva and you return fully to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's when Hashem will bring the Geula. And it therefore seems from the Rambam that all we need to do is do Tshuva, generic Tshuva. If we come closer to Hashem, then Hashem will redeem us. But is there anything specific in our avoda that is geared towards bringing Mashiach? No, just do Tshuva. That's the thing. That's the ingredient that brings Mashiach. Okay? Take a look back at the Igeret Teiman, where you see the Rambam wrote two very important igarot, or epistles. Igrot or igarot? Igrot. Igrot. He wrote two very important letters or epistles to the Jewish community. One was Igeret Teiman, the letter to the Jews of Yemen, and the other one was known as the Igeret Hashmad, which was to encourage another Jewish community to remain steadfast and strong in the face of persecution and pressure to convert to Islam. The Igeret Teiman was written because there was a certain messianic stirring within the Jews of Yemen. There was an individual who had claimed that he was the Mashiach, and they wanted to consult with the Rambam what he thought and what the proper attitude should be towards Mashiach. And the Igeret Hashmad was geared towards the Jews of the Rambam's own community, who were feeling, and in Spain, who were feeling that there had been a rabbi who lived in the times of the Rambam, who had told people that they should give up their lives before they convert to Islam. They should be Moser Nefesh al Kiddush Hashem. And the Rambam very strongly disagreed. The Rambam felt that it was not worth it to give up your life in order to avoid being shmated. Now, this is, of course, a completely separate discussion. Maybe it's an interesting halachic discussion. I think we've touched upon it in the past when we talked about the differences between Christianity and Islam. You cannot extrapolate from the Rambam's Igeres Hashmad that it would be okay to convert to Christianity, because you remember that for the Rambam, Islam is not avodah zarah and Christianity is. But when it comes to Islam, the Rambam's whole attitude was that because it's not avodah zarah, and all you have to do is say, I accept Muhammad as my final prophet, you're not really saying anything. You're not really doing anything. The whole thing's a joke. They don't take it seriously. We don't take it seriously. It's really they're doing it in order to create political unity in the nations that they lord over, that they are in charge of, and therefore go ahead and do it and save your life. And you can be a covert Jew and find an opportunity to move to a place where they won't persecute you for expressing your Judaism. And there's almost some biographical information that we infer because we know that the Rambam's family itself had to migrate from Spain to Egypt in order to escape persecution. There are some scholars who actually opine that Rabbi Maimon himself, the Rambam's father, had actually converted to Islam overtly in order to avoid persecution before leaving Spain. So we don't know for sure, but there is such a theory. So he sends this letter, the Igeret Teiman, to the Jews of Yemen to talk to them about what it means to strive for the coming of Mashiach. And he says to them as follows, and with this I think we're going to have a chance to read this passage from Igeret Teiman, and then we'll have to save the other materials for another time. He says, Va'atem achenu, yadua lachem she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu hipilanu b'mahamarot avonotenu b'toch umazu, shehi umat Yishmael. He says, you know, my brethren, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed us because of the preponderance of our sins amidst this terrible nation, this nation of Yishmael. Shira'atam chazka aleinu. Their evil, the evil that they commit, has been overpowering. V'hem mitchakmim lahara v'lim'os otanu kemo shegazar aleinu yitbarach v'oyevenu pililim. And they have constantly come up with chachmas to constantly persecute us. And this is in line with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Parshas Ha'azinu, v'oyevenu pililim, that our enemies are constantly adjudicating and thinking about ways to persecute us further. V'shelo ta'amod al Yisrael uma yoter oyevet mimena v'lo uma shehara'a b'tachlit hara'a. He says they will never arise against the Jewish people a more formidable enemy than the Islamic world, nor an enemy that is more evil than the nation of Yishmael. L'daldel otanu ulahaktin otanu v'lim'os otanu kemohem. To crush us and belittle us and to despise us in the way that they have done. Now, the Rambam is living in an Islamic world. I would wonder what he would say if he was living in 1930s Germany. But he says that this is the worst it's ever been in his, as far as his collective history. Sha'afilu David HaMelech Olav HaShalom Keshera'a Beruach HaKodesh Kol HaTzaros HaAsidos LiYisrael, that David himself, when he saw with Ruach HaKodesh all of the tzaros that the Jewish people would eventually endure, Hitchil Yitz'oku L'konen B'lashon HaUmah Mera'at B'nei Yishmael. He began to scream and cry when he saw prophetically what the Ishmaelites would do to us. Ve'amar, O Yoli ki garti meshech, shachanti imo halei kedar. Woe is me that I have dwelled in this period, that I have had to live among the tents of Kedar. Kedar, of course, are the eastern nations. Ve'ra'u eich zachar Kedar misha'ar b'nei Yishmael. Notice how he mentions Kedar, who was one of the sons of Yishmael. Why does he choose Kedar? Lefisha ha-meshuga hu mibnei Kedar kemoshu hu meforsam yichuso. Because that Meshuganer, who is he referring to? Muhammad, is from the descendants of Kedar, as is known from his biography, writes the Rambam. V'o Daniel lo siper katnutenu v'dildulenu ela b'malchut Yishmael shetikana b'meira. The prophet Daniel also, when he discusses the most downtrodden state of the Jewish people, he describes it in terms of the nation of Islam. Shekain Omar vatipol arza min hatzava u'min hakochavim v'tirmas. That the Jewish people are compared to stars, and we were trampled and fell from the sky. V'anachnu ba'odedim sovlim shibudam v'kizvehem v'shikrutam l'mayla miyacholtenu she'ein biyacholet ha'adam koach lisbol. He says we are still enduring this great persecution that is a result of their lives, and it is overwhelming. He says we don't even have the koyach to continue to endure this. V'yihi kemo she'amar David olav hashalom va'ani kecheresh lo eshma u'chi'ilem lo yiftach piv. King David about this situation said, I'm like a deaf person who cannot hear. I'm like a mute person who cannot even open his mouth and say a word. V'chemosha ho chichunu rabotenu laseit kizvei yishmel v'shikro v'lishtok mimenu. And our rabbis also have told us, have admonished us, that we just have to keep our mouths shut and pretend that we don't hear about the lies and the falsehoods of the nation of Islam. V'samchu zeh lapasuk shekatuv b'shem banav u'mishma v'duma u'masa. That it talks about the descendants of Yishmael, 3 descendants of Yishmael that are written in Sefer Bereshis are Mishma, Duma, and Masa. Yeah, so those names are actually coded words. You know what they mean? Shema, Dom, Visa. Listen, don't say a word, and endure. Just suck it in. V'chavar hiskamnu kulanu gidolam ukutanim lispol shibudam, and that's been basically our consensus. We just endure it. We keep our mouths shut. We shash still. Shash still. Shekain, although he didn't say shash still, he said it in Arabic. Shekain Omer Yeshayahu olav hashalom goy nasati lemakim ulechaye lamortim panai lo histarti michlimot varok. Or Gevi nasati lemakim. I says I place my back to the whipper and my cheek to the slaps. I do not hide my face from humiliation and spit. Ve'im kol zelu nuchal lihinatzel meirav ra'atam u'pachazutam b'chol zman. We still, despite the fact that we try to keep a low profile and we're shashtil yidin, we still can't completely avoid their persecutions. B'chol zman shanu rodfim shlomam hein rodfim acharenu b'charomu v'milchama. Anytime we try to seek their peace, we try to make shalom with them, what do? They pursue us with violence and with war. So has anything changed? There's a typo here. As King David said, I am peace, but when I open my mouth to speak, all they respond with is war, jihad. He says all of these things, we're just skipping a little bit further down in the tshuva. This is really towards the end of Igeret Teiman. He says these are things that our prophets have already told us about that would happen to us. Shebekarov limot hamashiach ha'amiti yirbu ha'to'anim v'ha'choshvim shekol echad mehem mashiach. Now, to respond to the matter at hand in the Igeret Teiman, he says all of that has transpired the Jewish people in the 12th century, that they're going to be constantly emerging these messianic figures who claim to be the Redeemer. This has already been foretold and forecast by Chazal and by the Nevi'im. V'lo ta'amod ta'anatam v'lo titamed. And therefore I tell you, says the Rambam, that all of their claims will never be substantiated. These are not the real messiahs. V'yovdu heim v'yovdu imahem rabim. And they will be lost, and all who follow them will be lost as well. Ulefi sheyada Shlomo alav hashalom baruch hakodesh shehu ma'u zot be'erech zman galuta tiftzar lehitno'ea below ita ha're'uya. Because Shlomo HaMelech foresaw that the Jewish people, because of the tremendous pressures and the lengthy duration of Galus, would try to push things through quicker than they're supposed to be pushed through. And we would become impatient. And we would say, it's enough, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want to get redemption right away. The Yovdu Bishvil Zeh, and they'll be lost because of that, because if you do it at the wrong time, if you push when it's not the right time for Geula, you're going to lose out. The Yavo Alehem Tzarot, and there's going to be lots of tsaros as a result. The Hizr Milaso Zeh, and therefore Shlomo HaMelech admonishes the Jewish people not to push when it's not the right time. The Hishbiya Ha'uma Al Derech Mashal Ve'amar, and therefore he causes the nation to swear using in an analogous fashion, in other words, Kaviyachol. And he says, Hishbati etchem benot Yerushalayim bitzvaot o ba'ayalot hasadeh, im ta'iru ve'im ta'oru et ha'ava ad shetechpas. I adjure you, the daughters of Jerusalem, that are out in masses or out in the fields. Do not arouse yourselves, and do not try to reawaken the love until the desired time. So you see, the Rambam here is responding to what? The Rambam here is responding to messianic fervor that he feels is inappropriate for his generation. He says, Chevra, you've got to realize that we're living under the boot of the Islamic empire. And if we try to reverse our current strategy of being Shashtil Yidin, we're going to get ourselves in a lot of trouble. So don't allow any messianic figure to dishevel at least the modicum of peace that we've been able to maintain up until now by being Shashtil Yidin. It's really the attitude of the Rambam. Ve'ata achinu ohavenu kablu aleichem shavuato ve'al ta'iru et ha'ava ad shetechpatz. And therefore, my brethren, my beloved brethren, accept upon yourselves the oath, the adjuration of King Solomon, and do not arouse the love until the desired time. Uborei ha'olam b'midas rachamim yizkor otanu ve'etchem lekabes galuyot nachalato v'chevlo lachazot b'noam Hashem u'levaker be'echalo. That God, in His great mercy, will remember us and will remember you, and He will gather our exiles at the proper time to be able to visit the glory of Hashem in the right time. And He will remove us from this valley of the shadow of death that He has placed us in. And He will remove the darkness of our eyes and the opaqueness of our hearts. V'yakim b'yamimu v'yamechem ha'am ha'olchim b'choshech ro'u or gadol yeshvu be'eretz tzalmaves or noga aleihem. It will be fulfilled within us the prophecy of Isaiah that those who were walking in darkness will see a great light. Those who sat in a great shadow will have a great radiant light shine upon them. V'yachshich ba'apo ve'evrato al kol ha'kamim aleinu. God will silence and darken all those who rise against us. V'ya'ir machashecheinu kasher hivtichanu. And God will illuminate our darkness as He promised us. Ki hinei hachoshech yichaseh eretz va'arafel le'umim v'alach yizrach Hashem u'chvodo alayach yira'eh. As Isaiah says in chapter 9, that the darkness will cover the earth and the other nations. But upon you, says Hashem, there will be shining a light of His glory, and that will be seen upon you. Yes?
So according to the Rambam, when would be the right time? It seems from his word that he's a Shashtil forever.
Well, that's the important thing, is that we have to put the Rambam in proper context. The last thing that you need to look at is the Rambam in Hilchos Melachim, which we're only going to have a chance to speak out at this point because the time is late. And the Rambam in Hilchos Melachim on page 4 says something very important. And we're not going to go through all of the halachos, but of particular import are in Hilchos Melachim, Perek Yud Aleph. I would encourage you to take a look at it. Halachos Aleph, Gimel, and Dalet. And here the Rambam is codifying halacha, and he talks about what Mashiach is, what he will be, and what we can expect of him. And here the Rambam says that the Messianic age is not going to be a miraculous time where great nisim are going to happen to bring about a Geula. But rather there will arise in Eretz Yisrael a king, a ruler, who will succeed in doing certain things. And he's going to be able to put together an army that will be able to defeat all the enemies of the Jewish people. He'll be able to gather together all of the exiles that are out on all of the outlying places outside of Eretz Yisrael where Jews live, and bring all the Yidden back to Eretz Yisrael, and he'll be able to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. Now, the only way that the Rambam could legitimately say this, in light of what he writes in Igeret Teiman, is because there's no contradiction. There really is no contradiction. The Rambam writes Igeret Teiman at a time when all of the indicators point to the fact that it's not time for Mashiach to come. Is it an apikorsis to say that Mashiach will not come today? No, it's not an apikorsis. The Rambam, who was the author of the song Ani Mamin Be'emunah Shalem B'Vias HaMashiach, right? Even though he didn't formulate it in exactly those words, but the point is, he says V'afal pi she'yitmameya im kol ze achakalo, doesn't mean that a Jew is obligated to believe that Mashiach could come today. That's a fallacy. If you look at the world around you and you see that based on present circumstances, there's no way Mashiach can come today, because certain things have to happen, have to transpire before the world will be, or before the Jewish people will be ready for Mashiach. You're not an apikoros. You're hoping and you're yearning for that time when Mashiach will come, but you know it's not going to be today based upon current indicators. So when the Rambam was writing his letter to the Jews of Teiman, he said to them, Chevra, don't you realize that now's not the time? It's not time yet for Mashiach to come, because look at where we find ourselves in Galus. And he still said, Adi Ani Mamins, right? The Rambam still affirmed his belief in the coming of Mashiach, and he still yearned for the coming of Mashiach, even though he knew that it might not happen in his lifetime. So therefore, what the Rambam is definitely saying is there will come a time when all of the world circumstances are such that it is the right time for Mashiach to come. And he acknowledges that this is supposed to be an evolutionary process. How else is there supposed to be a messianic figure who organizes an army to defeat all the enemies of the Jews? This whole statement is predicated on the assumption that there's going to be a huge ingathering of Jews that's going to happen in a non-miraculous fashion. Because if you need an army in order for the Mashiach to be identified as the Mashiach, then how did the army get there in the first place? It must be that the army coalesced in Eretz Yisrael through non-messianic figures, and the Messiah succeeded in taking the current infrastructure that was non-messianic in nature and converting it into an eschatological messianic destiny. Right? So that's the Rambam in a nutshell. He doesn't disagree with Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, but he's not as optimistic as Rabbi Yehuda Halevi as to the ability of the Jew in Galus to hasten the redemption. The time will come that when there will be a time for Geula, it's not now. That's his message. For Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, every day is the time for Geula. All we have to do is desire it enough, and it'll be a reality. Now, it could also be a product of the fact that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi's world was not as oppressive as the Rambam's world. Even though they lived only 50 years apart, the Islamic regime that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi lived under was a little bit more, let me put it this way, was far less despotic and oppressive than the regime that the Rambam lived under. Doesn't mean that they were buddy-buddies. It just means they were more toxic. Okay. Rabbi, have a good evening. Thank you for listening.